Hello everyone, welcome to this video in Vardal. In this video, we're going to look at the story of the meeting of the first three Vaishnavite Alwars who lived in southern India around 7th, 8th century AD. Before we go into the actual story, I would like to reflect a bit on how we are looking at stories. For example, if you look at this picture here, it could be described in many ways. We'll all recognize this as Hanumanji taking a leap across the ocean. We can call this as a story of great adventure, a story of strength and valor, a leap of faith, and so on and so forth. Each person will have their own description. Now, if we look at this from the context of some personal reality of ours, so for example, often if we are going through a tough time in our life, we are advised to pray to Hanumanji for the discipline will really help us. If we are quitting our comfortable 9 to 5 job in the pursuit of a startup, that's a big leap of faith. Now, if this story of Hanuman can evoke that personal reality, then this story acquires a completely different realm. So, in this video, the stories that we're going to tell are from that perspective. I request you to pause the video now and reflect on what this means to you and what personal realities this evokes. This story is about a lamp. So maybe it's also useful for us to reflect on what does a lamp mean to me. Of course, it is a physical lamp, but metaphorically, what does it mean to me? Why do I light a lamp? There are some very wise things that our ancestors have said about lamps. For example, Thiruvalluvar has said, "Ella vilakkum vilakkalla sandorku poyya vilakke vilakku." So, not all lamps are equally important for the wise. Only those lamps which are never falsifiable are most important. What has a lamp got to do with truth and false? And this verse from Sri Shuktam says, Chandram Hiranmayin Lakshmim Jata Vedoma Ava. The lamp, referred to as Jata Vedas, is sent to Lakshmi to invite her to our home. So, what does a lamp mean to me, metaphorically? You can reflect on that for a moment. All right, now let's go into the story. Before we go into the specific details of the meeting of the three Alwars, it may be useful to just understand how Vaishnavite tradition looks at the Alwars. According to the Vaishnavite tradition, there are 108 Divya Desams, or the abode of Sriman Narayana. Of these, 106 are on earth and 2 are in the divine abode. The 108th place is called Sri Vaikuntham. It is referred to as Pattu Ketkumidam. That is, it's the place where music is heard. It is believed that in this place, Sriman Narayana exists all by himself and is in Laya continuously listening to Samagita. Sriman Narayana, due to his causeless compassion for all beings, all human beings, his devotees, he then moves himself to the 107th Divya Desam, which is Tiruparkadal. And this place is called Kupid Ketkumidam. That is, this is a space where he hears the devotees when they call out to him. And when he hears it, he acts on it. Either he goes or he sends one of his attendants to serve the devotee. But we human beings, being human beings, get lost in the transactional nature of our lives. We get caught up in the daily grind, the pressures and pleasures of life, and forget to call out to Sriman Narayana to seek his advice and guidance and support. So, the Alwars took birth on earth to remind us that Sriman Narayana exists and we need to call out to him. Alwars itself means that they go into the depths of the human consciousness, human beings, and are steeped in bhakti of to Sriman Narayana. The first of the Alwars, Poigai Alwar, once visited the Lord in the temple at Tirkovilu. At the end of the day, after his darshan, he took rest in an ashram. It was an ashram of a rishi. It was dark and raining, and he lied down in the veranda outside the ashram. It was a fairly small space, just enough for one person to lie down. In a little while, another person showed up. He was none other than Bhudatalwar, the second of the Alwars. And when he came, he saw that there was a small space and only one person could lie down, and he saw another person lying down there. So he was about to leave. But just as he was about to leave, Alwar saw him and told him, yeah, there's one person only can lie down here, but maybe two people can sit. So please come in. And so Alwar went there and he sat there along with Alwar. And they probably engaged each other in some very interesting conversations. In a little while, the third Alwar, Alwar, also showed up there. What a divine coincidence. And he saw two people sitting in a cramped space, so he decided to leave. But those two gentlemen called out to him and said, yeah, only two people can sit here, but perhaps three can stand. So please come in. And so Alwar also went there, and all three of them were standing and probably engaged each other in some interesting conversations. In a little while, they felt there's perhaps more here. The space felt a little too crowded and it was too dark for them to figure out who else was there. They surely thought there's somebody else, but they couldn't figure out who else was there. And so the story goes, all the three Alwars composed the first of their Tiruvandadis. Each of them composed 100 verses that went into the Divya Prabandham. And according to the story, all three of them composed the first verse of their 100. In their poems, both Alwar and Bhudatalwar said they each lit a certain lamp. Alwar lights a lamp using a lot of external things, and Bhudatalwar lights a lamp using a lot of internal things. Such mesmerizing, beautiful poetry. In the light of the lamps lit by Alwar and Bhudatalwar, Alwar sings, he got darshan of Mahalakshmi along with Mahavishnu. Not to be left behind, his poetry is also mesmerizing. There's an interesting backstory about his birth and how his birth was an attempt to discover the true form of Mahalakshmi. That's for another video. And in this poem, he says, Tirukandane, that is, I saw Mahalakshmi. Oh, what a fantastic story, replete with metaphors. One person lights a lamp with external things, one person lights a lamp with internal things, and the third person in that light gets a great darshan. Now, we don't want to go into translating it into this is what it means, for that will disable the listener from figuring out their own meaning. We invite you to reflect for yourself what this story means to you. What does a lamp mean to you? In the yogic tradition, a lamp is usually understood as a practice that will help throw light on some aspects of ourselves which are hitherto in the dark. For example, these four questions are widely regarded as very important questions that every human being must ask, consciously ask. And if we don't consciously ask, usually they are in the dark. And if we do consciously ask, we will start exploring them, and that exploration usually leads to a lot of well-being. The praxis of yoga offers two fundamental practices. One, a practice on the mat to be done daily, a practice which is personalized to you, your age, gender, health conditions, etc., anchored on the breath. This will help you really invest in your health, and the calmness and the spaciousness at the end of the practice allows you for perspectives in relationships and habit patterns. The other practice is continuous dhyana or self-reflection on oneself, and this will help you go deeper in your understanding of wealth, your job, your aspirations, etc. May the lamp of the Alwars and our own inner lamp show us the way to a healthy, wealthy, and fulfilled life. Thank you.